Shepard, promise me you'll tell them to subscribe for ad-free content.
Now, of course, the entire gaming industry seemingly stopped and came to a screeching halt because Resident Evil Requiem is now available. As looking at Capcom in totality, safe to say they've already been receiving mammoth amount of money from the Resident Evil franchise to the point where, as far as a company, they have around 9.5 to 10 billion dollars with a B. So getting back into Resident Evil Requiem specifically, not only is it critically acclaimed from the people who are personally playing the game, but from the major conglomerates such as a Metacritic, safe to say this is the highest rated Resident Evil game ever, surpassing the prior highest, which was Resident Evil 4. So now when you look at Resident Evil Requiem, everybody and their mama has extreme high praise for this specific game, and guess what? We're going to get into it in this specific segment from a sales and review roundup perspective. As if you don't know, even though Resident Evil Requiem is currently selling a crazy amount of it's selling like hotcakes, as you look at Steam specifically, even Capcom had to come out themselves and say that Steam is responsible for over 50% of game sales. And with that being the case, the main thing I wanted to do was look at the consoles as far as the specific revenue or just the standings that Resident Evil Requiem is on the charts, as interestingly enough, it is not in the top 10 on Xbox, but it was on the top 10 of Nintendo, excluding Japan, because of course, when you look at Famitsu, hopefully I'm saying that right, which is literally the chart for Japan specifically for Nintendo games, Mario Tennis is currently topping the charts, but of course, that's Japan primarily. When it comes to Resident Evil Requiem overall, it is doing well on the Nintendo Switch 2 platform, because if you don't know, it's also on the Nintendo Switch 2. I know a game like this that's graphically intensive, you wouldn't think it'd be on the Nintendo Switch 2, but actually it is, and is running phenomenal to the point where I have to say, Nintendo, you actually had a graphically intensive game on your hardware and it didn't completely explode. So looking at Resident Evil Requiem, as far as the platforms that is available on, is currently on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch 2, and of course the PC. And at the end of the day, no, ladies and gentlemen, it is not on the retro console, which is the Xbox One and the PS4.
Shepard, just look at the state of gaming. Like, what is going on?
Sad day in history for retro gamers out there. But anyways, getting back into, in all seriousness, Resident Evil Requiem is doing phenomenal. When you look at it being the best-selling game on PlayStation currently, as far as what people are currently playing on the PlayStation platform, Resident Evil Requiem is at number 1. When you look at Steam specifically, it is, 1, 2, let me see, 4, 5, 6. It is currently the 6th most played game on Steam, and it had an all-time peak of 344,000 4 days ago. And of course, it's steadily above the 100,000 mark, which is phenomenal for a single-player game, because of course, when it comes to the stigma of single-player games not selling, safe to say Resident Evil Requiem is showcasing that if you put a high-quality product out there to the market, people are going to flock and come in droves, because of course, all we want is a fantastic experience for us to play as gamers. So getting back into the Resident Evil franchise, safe to say when you look at Resident Evil 5 back in 2009, objectively speaking, that was the best-selling title. 16 million plus units historically. And of course, when it comes to revenue, as far as the franchise-wide, it generated over 170 to 183 units sold. So now, you come to realize, Capcom, of course, Resident Evil is their baby, right? Because not only has it made them a lot of money, but of course, when you look at it as a company, they are towards the top 20, I believe, as far as some of the most profitable gaming companies in the world, trailing behind companies like GameStop. I know the stigma around GameStop, but hey, Just the objective analytics don't lie. So it's trailing companies like GameStop, and only by like $1 billion, only $1 billion, right? But anyways, next on Bandai Namco, Konami, and then you start to get into the discrepancy as far as the Take-Twos, the Roblox of the worlds, the EAs. But Capcom still is respectable in the gaming company industry, especially the amount of revenue that's bringing in from the latest title, Resident Evil Requiem. Now, the main thing I wanted to touch on before we get into the mechanics and, of course, the review roundup of this specific game is who in the world thought it was a good idea to put all the popular characters of Resident Evil together, but to make the dialogue between them trash.
Shepard, just look at the state of gaming. Like, what is going on?
Because I was doing my research, I was like, hold up now. You telling me Resident Evil has all these different franchises, a lot of favorite characters such as Leon, Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Claire Redfield, etc., and none of these people have crossed over until you realize they have crossed over in 2023 with the game Resident Evil Death Island. But of course, when it comes to reviews from people who actually played the entire franchise, they said that, of course, they respected the fan service that was delivered, but overall, the predictable plot, the weak dialogue just made them say to themselves, "You guys." See, that's the problem. So if you was wondering if these favorite characters ever crossed over, they have. It just wasn't good. So with that being said, now it's time to dive into Resident Evil Requiem. As if you don't know, this game came out and notoriously affected the masses February 27, 2026. It's the 9th installment in the mainline entry. Of course, the predecessor was Resident Evil Village, which, when it comes to the previous games, I believe it wasn't even on the level of Resident Evil Requiem. Like, it just blows it out of the water. When you look at other games that previously came out before Resident Evil Requiem, yeah, it wasn't even close. Resident Evil is actually, it's on pace to be one of the most profitable Resident Evils of all time, which is a huge deal, right? So, anyways, getting back into Resident Evil Requiem, if you don't know, there's the dual protagonist route that they have you going throughout the main story, which is Grace Ashcroft, and then of course the one and only Leon S. Kennedy. So the plot focus is on Grace investigating mysterious deaths tied to Raccoon City survivors, and then of course you have Leon bringing the action element as far as Grace bringing the horror element. So it's a nice duality they have going on, especially with the pacing of this game, because of course watching it for a little bit, because as far as me playing the game, I just don't play horror games, you know what I'm saying?
Shepard.
Now I'm just keeping it 8 more than 92. I do not like to be scared, and at the end of the day, I play games for enjoyment, not to be on the edge of my seat. So anyways, when it comes back into the hybrid perspective, you can have a first person or third person perspective with Grace. I believe Leon is locked on third person. There's no first person for Leon because it's more action, really. Leon's for the action. Grace is for the horror immersion, which is why there's a first person option to play as with Grace. So when you come to Grace's side of the campaign, it's more horrific in horror elements. And of course, it's added on. Well, that's added on to the fact where you have limited ammo, stealth, plus evasion focus, things of that nature as far as environmental puzzles. And then you come to Leon Kennedy, and they basically say to themselves, "Whoop-de-doo." They basically like, "Whoop-de-doo." Capcom is looking at you saying, "You want more horror? Whoop-de-doo. You finna play as Leon, and it's about to turn into God of War Resident Evil Edition." So you look at Leon, the over-the-shoulder combat, the parry mechanics, the melee combos, you come to realize it's completely different genre whenever you switch between these two characters. Now, of course, the horror element is there, but when you're playing as Leon, it's literally the God of War effect. You're playing as a character that has no fear in his heart. You're playing as an absolute dog. Now, Grace, she is technically a dog if one of the other dogs, like the weenie dogs, or you get the point. Basically, I'm saying, like, she's not an actual big dog like Leon is. She's more timid and scared. You come to realize throughout the gameplay, they show that magnificently with her shaking while holding a gun, going throughout the environment and freezing. Like, if you go in third person or first person, you still experience the same type of timidness, if that's even the word. There's the same type of timid behavior that Grace portrays, especially compared to Leon. So the story, of course, intertwines with these specific characters. And when you come to the AI in this specific game, I have to say Capcom has had one of the smarter AIs I've seen in the year of 2026, along with Marathon. Marathon and Resident Evil Requiem, to me, has had some of the most impressive AI that I've seen in a video game in the year of 2026. So that being said, specifically diving into the AI, as far as the zombies, if you don't know, there's a specific mechanic in this game that a lot of the interactions and hobbies that the humans had before they was turned zombies, basically they keep that up, right? So specifically, I think I had that on here. Yeah, specifically when you look at certain zombies in this specific game, they are doing things that they were in their real life. So if you look at, I don't know if it's actually on here. Let me see. I think it was a singer. Yeah, here it is. All right, so Resident Evil Requiem, there's zombies that adapt and defy expectations, such as the roles that they played before they was turned into zombies. For example, you have Maze cleaning blood for no reason, but frantically, right? Just for the heck of it. You know, they like, we want to make you scared by any means necessary. And guess what? I think they accomplished that. And then also, you come to realize that you have the singer who ends up screaming if you get close to him, and let's just say it's a very interesting effect. Now, like I said, I'm not going to spoil the whole game. I just want to let you know how advanced some of these AI mechanics are. You have the chef that staggering with utensils, repeating behaviors such as a certain zombie that hates when you turn the light off or whatever because he used to work in that hotel or the place that you're at. So the reason why I say that is because when you're playing as Grace, the stealth mechanic rewards you for recognizing those behaviors. So you're welcome. So anyways, I just wanted to, bring that to your attention. Also, when it comes to the history of Resident Evil, some will wonder to themselves, is the zombies in this game more like Walking Dead or just Walking Only, or are they more like Day One, or what's it called, like DayZ or whatever, where they just run in a Ford flat like Usain Bolt. Specifically for Resident Evil zombies, with them being mutated, technically they're not walkers, but they're also not just insanely fast and hawking you down from all the way across the room. It's basically emphasizing the horror mutations. So they have, I would say it's similar to like a superhuman effect, but it's not like to the point where they're running like the Flash. Like in DayZ, they're basically running to the point where there's nowhere you can go. The Will Smith movie, I forget what that's called. I forget what that's called. But basically, those type of zombies that's running super fast where you can't even get away, it's not like that. For this specific game, they focus on the person behind the mutation. So even though if they were strong before they got bit, well, now they're stronger. If they was doing chef stuff before they got bit, well, now they're doing chef stuff, especially in this specific game. Hopefully, I'm explaining it right. I don't know if that's the plainest way to put it, but that's basically what I got. Whoop-de-doo. So anyways, getting into the additional systems of this game, of course, Resident Evil wouldn't be Resident Evil without the resource management, the crafting. Of course, you have torch-based environmental puzzles, a lot of boss fights in this game. New Game Plus has insanity difficulty, and you come to realize, whenever you hop into Resident Evil Requiem, you will come to find out very quickly that Capcom did not want to waste any time getting you scared. You guys. So as far as the pacing of this game, it's immaculate. One of the best pacing stories I've seen in a video game for quite some time. I mean, as soon as you hop into the game, it's like, okay, we're getting straight to the action. And not in that type of way, like they're cutting out the story. Basically, they know how to evenly pace the story to where, maybe if you're getting a little tired of Grace, well, now they're switching to Leon. If you're getting a little tired of Leon, now they're switching to Grace. Like the perfect timing of Capcom and Resident Evil Requiem. Hopefully they can keep replicating that for future installments of Resident Evil, because I do believe, not only from watching it myself, garnering a lot of different opinions from major conglomerates and personal people playing the game, I think this may be the best pacing Resident Evil has ever had. And I've seen a lot of Resident Evils. So when you come to the storyline, I think this is the one game where you could beat for beat copy it to movies and it would be immaculate. Now, obviously, certain scenes you may elongate, but for the most part, this is a movie in the making. I mean, they basically made a movie in video game format and still made the video game aspect fantastic. So, yeah, I have high praise for this game, especially from an onlooker. Because once again, I'm not playing horror games because, hey, I can't do it. Well, I can, but, it's a lot. So when it comes to Grace, interestingly enough, and like I said, I'm not getting into spoilers, but it's so much to talk about with this specific game. When Grace was sent into her mission, let's just call it that, right? She was sent to her mission, and let's just say the motive behind that, the person who sent her and the person who's ahead of that department, he needs to be fired, man.
But then, you know what I'm saying? I was like, damn, look at...
I was like, ain't no way. Somebody looked at the whole itinerary, basically looked at the snapshot of things that could happen to this individual based on her previous ties, and he was like, you know what? This is the perfect person to send on this mission.
I just don't like it, man.
I just don't like it.
I just don't like that shit, man.
I mean, that's kind of crazy. And Grace, obviously she wasn't for it. She agreed. So, part of it is on her side. But I mean, come on now. You shouldn't even approached her with that mission. Anyways, talking about time, because of course, if you're a person who's employed, you definitely are aware of your time. The main story in this specific game takes about 10 to 11 hours. Now, of course, I've heard of people being in 2 hours. I think those are the speed runners who already played the game and know where everything's at. As far as the main story, from a lot of reports, it takes you around 10 to 11 hours. As far as main plus side content, it takes you 13 to 14 hours. Now, of course, for completionists out there that want to go in every nook and cranny, pause.
You guys.
I done pulled up my soundboard. But anyways, the completionist, it should take you 25 to 27 hours to complete the game. And is significantly longer compared to the Resident Evil 4 remake as far as the campaign scale. So, it's comparable. So, I think when it comes to the DLC, I think there's going to be DLC for this game, but maybe I'm misspeaking. Don't quote me on that. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know if there's DLC specifically for this game, but when it comes to the actual analytics, we already dove into that. Once again, 1.7 million Steam copies sold, estimated to have $110 million in revenue and that's just Steam only. Not even to mention the best performing platform, as what I've seen, is PlayStation, with it being the most played game on PlayStation. I think a lot of people are enjoying the graphics, especially from the PS5 Pro. When you look at Capcom specifically, of course they know how to make a Resident Evil, but it just seems like they took it to the next level with Resident Evil Requiem. I think I'm not going too much out on a limb to say that Resident Evil Requiem is probably one of the better games, if not the best story. Just forget the gameplay. It's probably one of the best stories they've ever told in Resident Evil franchise history. So that's a big deal. Getting into the split, as far as the platform split in looking at the physical copies, PS5, I guess we don't have that because that doesn't have all of it. That's just week one. That's just the debut. I don't want to get into the UK debut. Like, who cares? You know what I'm saying?
Who they do?
All right, my fault. For anybody watching from the UK, just know I care. Anyways, so looking at the rest of this game, of course, when you look at any super blockbuster release for a video game, it's going to have spoilers. And that was the same for Resident Evil Requiem. The reason why I'm letting you know this right now is because if you plan on playing this game, avoiding spoilers is going to be pretty hard. So either play it sooner rather than later, or you may have to turn off the keywords for certain things as far as Leon, as far as Grace. I'm just giving you little hints so you don't run into any spoilers. So anyways, looking at, let me see. So yeah, Capcom already came out and said 50% of the total game sales came from PC. So that's a significant accomplishment, especially for PC gamers out there, because we already know that we're going through it with these RAM prices, but really just everything in general. But the RAM prices are increasing expeditiously, only for all the companies to take up all the breathing air and the drinking water for AI to make a random outfit out of an already made picture. Hopefully you get the point. Hopefully you get the analogy. But if you don't, then hey, guess what?
Whoop-de-doo.
So getting back into the review roundup for this specific game, just know that Resident Evil Requiem has been very highly acclaimed, and every major conglomerate has came out and gave it basically a perfect score. As IGN gave it a 90 out of 100, saying, quote, like the result of an experiment conducted in an underground umbrella corporation lab, Resident Evil Requiem successfully splices two separate strains of survival horror together into the one highly infectious new mutation. Okay, that man was trying to write with that review. Okay, that's what's up. Game Informer gave this a 97.5 out of 100. What in the world? Where'd a 0.5 come from? Anyways, quote, it is fantastic. I ain't never seen this word before. A revelatory, not revolutionary. That's not what he put. It's revelatory. That's what's up, man. I don't know what that word means. Actually, let's look that up. I mean, give me 1 second. Revelatory definition. All right, I found it. That had to do some Mickey research right quick. Reveal something hitherto unknown in the world. All right, anyways, that word is unnecessary. Not going to capture you. A revelatory mix of terrifying survival horror and action that stops just short of being too over the top to dip back into the sentimental humanity of these seemingly everlasting characters. Requiem is Resident Evil at its finest. Game Rant gave this 100 out of 100, saying, quote, Game Rant's own review for Resident Evil Requiem saw the game being granted a perfect score, with it dubbed a horror gaming masterpiece. Eurogamer gave it another perfect score, 100 out of 100. They said, quote, Capcom marks Resident Evil's 30th anniversary with a stellar return that's both a masterful bit of suffocating horror and a nostalgic, fan-thrilling victory lap for the legendary series.
Shepard, just look at the state of gaming. Like, what is going on?
I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Y'all look at the state of gaming. If you don't say this is cinema, then I don't know what to tell you, man.
You guys. See, that's the problem.
I think it's apparent for me to say Resident Evil Requiem is definitely a must-play in the year of 2026. That's if you enjoy horror, if you enjoy the horror genre, or if you don't mind being scared. Let's just put it like that, because I can't do it. You know what I'm saying?
Whoop-de-doo.
Actually, I could, but it's,
Whoop-de-doo. And we beat these folk. Whoop-de-doo. We beat them. We go forward.
I prefer not to play scary games. I ain't gonna cap to you. So, looking at Resident Evil from a bird's eye view, safe to say there's a lot of things we could dive into. We could be here for days, because Resident Evil Requiem definitely deserves so many flowers. It will be a candidate for Game of the Year, and by far and away, it's probably the best story that's came out in the year of 2026. I'm trying to think of any other games. Yeah, no, it's the best story of 2026 by far. Obviously, we're just 3 months in, but I'm just letting you know, as of right now, currently speaking, Resident Evil Requiem has the best story in the video game in the year of 2026. So I think it was basically all I wanted to get into. Let me see. As far as the because I already talked about the Avengers team up that went went sour. Like, imagine if the Russo bros got Infinity War and Endgame and just completely just fumbled it and made it like Thor Love and Thunder quality. Like, that's basically what Capcom did with their Resident Evil Death Island. It was just a lot of fan service, not too much story. So hopefully at some point they can make another Avengers like crossover and not make it trash. But I thought that would be very easy for the star-studded cast members that they've garnered over time. But I guess not. I guess it's harder than Capcom thought. So, not to end off on anything negative, I'm just letting y'all know what's going on with the iconic characters Resident Evil. And I'm trying to see, was there anything else? That was basically it. We basically covered everything. You know what I'm saying? Wanted to put respect on Resident Evil's Requiem name, and hopefully I did just that. So with that being said, click my link tree in my bio. Let me know on one of my social medias. What do you think about the Resident Evil franchise as a whole? And do you believe that Resident Evil not only is one of the better games in the Resident Evil franchise, also, do you believe Resident Evil should be Game of the Year in 2026?